Chris, now we've got you in the building, I suppose it's a good opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and have a bit of a walk and talk here at Epic. If we could start back as a 19-year-old with ambitions of being a professional footballer, how difficult was that period in your life when that came to a stop?
It was very difficult, I think, for anyone. 19, you feel like you're a man, but you're not. You're young, and it was for me, it felt like a disaster. It was my dream to be a top player, and obviously that came to an end. So it was a really difficult time for me, where I had to readjust and think about what was next. And I was sure that I wanted to stay in the game, and coaching felt natural to me. And that's why every year I make sure I go and speak to young players from Premier League clubs that have facing something similar, to try and support them and give them some advice. So it was a real setback, but probably one of the only things you can guarantee if you're going to be successful is that you're going to have these setbacks and doubts and hurdles to overcome. So thankfully for me, I managed to turn it into a positive in terms of my coaching.
Go on then, what sort of player was you? Describe that to us.
On my best days, I think I was an energetic midfield player. Let's put it that way. I could pass and run the ball pretty well, but I think I was always probably couldn't affect the game enough as I wanted to as a midfielder. I think I was one of those that was put all around the pitch, a bit of a jack of all trades, which probably ended up hindering me a little bit in terms of my impact on games. But I think I wasn't always the best player on the pitch, but I was often the hardest working, the most committed. So a midfield player that likes to get forward and play with a lot of energy. So it's probably how I see football, and I want my teams to play with that energy and work ethic and being dynamic. So
Did that adversity that you had to sort of face and accept evoke a bit of resilience in you? Is that right? What's next? How do I now go again and reinvent myself a little bit?
Absolutely. I think any setback or any challenge that anyone has is a chance to grow from, and you can only really build resilience if you do get hit and get hurt, and you have to bounce back from it. So I always say it was some of the setbacks I've had, like that one was one of the worst things that could have happened, but it was also the best thing that could have happened to me. So it was a making of me, essentially. It made me pretty clear on how ruthless football can be, but how you can bounce back and nothing can stop you as well. So it was a long time ago now, 20 years ago now, but it's been a great journey since then, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about it then. So obviously 19, 20 years old, aspirations of being a footballer comes to an end. What's next? How do you then decide, right, coaching's for you, and what steps do you take?
I think I was lucky at Reading because I was always, the coaches I had, Brendan Rodgers was one of my coaches there. I went on to work for him. Brian McDermott was my reserve team coach. I went on to work for him as his assistant later years. And they were very supportive to me, and they almost encouraged me to stay in the game as a coach. And I think I was always a captain of the teams. I always felt like a leader, and I thought, well, I can communicate, I understand football pretty well, and I believe I can learn and grow as a coach. So I knew that I wanted to stay in the game as a coach, and obviously very lucky to have the support of a great family behind me as well. So I think from there it was right, okay, how can I do this? How can I be a bit different? I'm not going to be a player that's played 500 games at the end of his career and can walk into a job. How can I really grow as a coach? So for me it was studying, learning. I went to university, started doing my coaching badges with the PFA, who were really helpful at that time, at Arsenal's academy. So started to really work towards that, and then that was the first steps really.
In terms of that journey, you then go into opposition analysis. Is it looking into, I read there was 70 hours potentially spent on each opponent. Is that true as a figure?
Yeah, I think it is around about then. But you're very immersed in football, and it's one of those jobs, you say, it's long days and then you work at a night as well. And it was about, for me, I'm that type of person, I'm extremely hardworking, and for me that's fundamental, because I'm not someone that believes I've got a right to achieve anything and I'm any different to anyone else. I believe a lot of my success has come through sheer hard work and determination and learning, So when I was analysing the opposition, that's exactly what I was trying to do. My job was to understand how we could beat them. So for me, that meant 70 hours. That was what I had to do. So, and it proved to be pretty successful.
Talk us through that evolution then. You go from that to then being on the grass and working with players and putting on structured sessions. How does that happen? How does that come about, that transition from in the building to out on the grass?
Yeah, well, I was before I did the opposition my story was I did 6 years as a youth coach before I went to, came back, was in New Zealand at that point, but came back and Brendan Rodgers had a job at Swansea. And my choice at that time, after being a youth coach for 6 years, was do I go to be an academy coach, maybe at an ex-club or someone like Reading or a London club, or this job came up with Brendan, and it was to look at the opposition. And I sat down with Brendan and looked at it and thought, well, that could be a really, really good job for me, because I was 25 at the time, the chance to work with the first team environment as part of the coaching staff, and really learn the game tactically. Because what I felt I'd done is I'd learned how to put a session on, communicate, and the basics of coaching. But what this job gave me a chance to do was study the best coach. Well, we got promoted that season from the Championship to the Premier League, and I was then studying the best coaches, the best teams intricately to really learn the game tactically. And that was actually a foundation for me as a coach, gave me a lot of confidence. I went to Liverpool, had a similar role, but I mean, I would go out on the grass and help with the coaching sessions at both Swansea and Liverpool, and I'd even join in the odd training session at both clubs because I was young enough to do so. So that was a real foundation for me. So by the time I went initially back to Reading to be the assistant and then to Celtic, I felt more than capable, because I had a really good base behind me as a coach, and I was really itching to be a head coach at that point probably, but I knew the next step was to be an assistant. So it was really exciting. I went to Reading for those 6 months, and then the job came up at Celtic, and we were obviously incredibly successful there. So that was a really, really natural step, it felt like, for me, and it was a culmination of a process really, from youth coaching to really tactically understanding the game to then going and get a job like that.
Yeah, you mentioned Brendan there. Obviously, you spent some time working with him, and then Ange, Postecoglou in the last year or so. How different are they in terms of their approach, and what similarities are there?
I think they're very different characters. They're very different characters and personalities, but each true to themselves. I think both got quite a similar take on football, both quite attacking in terms of wanting to be dominant, wanting to attack, and that's aligned with how I see football as well, and a lot of the coaching work that I've done. So, yeah, similarities between them both, but how they actually deliver that to the team and to the players is quite different, and how they actually lead and manage was very different. So it's great for me to see, there is no right or wrong way. What's important is to be authentic and do it your way. And I'm conscious that I've learned a lot from these guys, but it's never to be an imitation of any of them. It's to be myself, and that's when people can really connect with you, and you can really coach and lead in the right way.
Yeah, you hear managers and head coaches talk about culture at a football club. What does that mean to you, that word?
I think culture is, culture is it's a buzzword, but it's about behaviours. It's about behaviours. Culture is something that it's hard to sum it up in a sentence, or it's not quite tangible enough to see. But I think for me, it's about the behaviours as a staff member, a player. It's how you treat people, how you behave, and what kind of mindset that you've got collectively. And that forms a culture. And I think the job as a leader is to make sure that you're behaving in a certain way that people can see, recognise, and start to follow.
When you look at this summer, the recruitment is going to form a big part of what happens here in the coming weeks and months. And when you refer back to the culture of a workplace, how important is it that you get the right personalities in the building? As much as the ability at disposal has to be there, the right people in the building is equally as important, I'd imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me, it's critical. I don't want to be successful with bad people. I want to be successful with the right characters, that people that are aligned in terms of the respect that they show others and the way they behave. So that's really important. And if you want to be a successful team, and you're going to need that anyway. So for me, yes, there's the football side, but one of the first things I'll ask whenever I'm looking at a player is I will speak for character references to people I know that work with them, because we've all seen wonderful footballers that are very difficult to manage, and they just don't fit kind of culture that I'm going to create here. So there'll be none of that. The people that come are going to be committed, they're going to want to be here, and they're going to be very good footballers as well.
Couple more before we go back into the building. The role of the fans, what's your ask of them? Yes, of course, to turn up and make noise, but is there an appreciation for what you're trying to do? Does there have to be an understanding as to how you want the team to play?
Yeah, I think we're going to be pretty aligned. We want to go and attack. We want to go and attack, and I think we're all going to be pretty clear that we're going to be a scout for every team in the league this year because of the size of the club. But so there's going to be times where I think we are going to be dominant and have the ball, and yes, we are going to have to show a degree of patience to find the right gaps, to find the right moments. But I'm not someone that wants keep the ball for keeping the ball's sake. We want to go forward and we want to attack as much as possible. So, yeah, we have to be clear what we're trying to do and make sure that the fans can recognise that we're playing with a purpose. Everything we do is with a purpose to go and win. So I think that'll be clear to the fans when they see the team play what we're trying to do. And I'm really excited to have this fan base behind us, because they're infamous for their passion, the commitment to the club. And it's been a difficult few years for Birmingham. They had to suffer, but they're still there. They're still with the team like they always will be. So we'll create a team that they can be proud of and that they can come and really look forward to watching.
The pressing question will be knitwear, gilet, tracksuit, blazer. What can we expect?
Don't overcomplicate things is basically my plan. So I think it'll be a bit of a mixture. Probably a tracksuit and a suit every now and then. So nothing too complicated. My wife always tells me don't overthink this. Just keep it simple. So too much to worry about without getting obsessed with what I'm wearing. So no, but really looking forward to it.
Chris, really appreciate your time, and thanks again for talking to us.
Super.
Thank you.